Welcome to the Smart Keys podcast. Imagine for a second that you're staring down a to-do list on your screen.
Oh, we all know that feeling.
Right. And right at the top is this massive bullet point that simply says, overhaul website.
Just looking at that hurts.
In that exact moment, your heart rate spikes, your brain completely freezes up, and somehow you end up doom scrolling social media for like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
We've all been there. But, why does that happen? Why do we do this to ourselves? Today, we are digging into the mechanics of that exact feeling.
It's a really common trap.
It is. And we're pulling apart an incredible strategic framework originally outlined by Felix Römer. Now, Felix is the founder of smartkeys.org and a 15-year veteran in e-commerce, digital marketing, and SaaS innovation.
He really knows this stuff.
He absolutely does. And today, we're looking at what he calls the next action mindset. The mission of this deep dive is to figure out how this framework acts as a really comprehensive resource for modern professionals looking to just skyrocket their business efficiency.
Because, let's face it.
Right. If you are a professional today, you are likely drowning in massive, vague projects. So, okay, let's unpack this. What is a next action actually defined as? And, how do we move from this broad problem of workplace overwhelm to an actual executable strategy?
Well, to understand that, we really need to completely overhaul our definition of work.
Okay.
Because a next action isn't a milestone on a Gantt chart. It isn't a quarterly goal. It is the single, concrete, visible, physical step that you can take right now to move a project forward.
Wait, a physical step?
Yes. It is literally a physical movement.
A physical movement. That's a very specific distinction to make compared to just a normal task.
It changes everything, honestly. You don't need to have the entire project mapped out in your head to make progress.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and this entire mindset, it builds on the productivity philosophies of thinkers like David Allen.
Oh, the getting things done guy.
Exactly, the creator of Getting Things Done, or GTD, and Josh Kaufman, too. They recognize this fundamental flaw in how we operate, which is that the human brain is just terrible at processing ambiguity.
Right.
When you feed your brain a vague task, it doesn't see an instruction. It actually sees a threat.
I want to push back on that a little bit, though, because, it sounds great in theory to say just define the physical step. But a vague to-do list is almost like a blurry map, right?
Sure.
It tells you the destination, but it hides the immediate road. So how do we actually find that specific next step without just doing more planning? Aren't we just trading doing for more planning?
Well, that is the ultimate trap of productivity systems, right? Over-engineering.
Yeah, spending 3 hours organizing your tasks instead of doing them.
Exactly. But the framework here actively prevents that by forcing you to define the done state first.
The done state.
Right. Before you pick a micro-action, you have to write a single, definitive sentence outlining what done actually looks like. Because once you know the finish line, the immediate next step becomes obvious. It's almost reflexive.
Let's ground that a bit. What does defining done look like in practice?
So take a really common corporate project like a summer promotion.
Sure.
If your list just says summer promo, your brain has to reinvent the wheel every single time you read those words.
Because it's so huge.
Yes. But if you define the outcome, and the source gives a great example here, launch the summer promotional package with approved mock-ups and a finalized shipping plan, you've immediately established the boundaries of the project.
Ah, I see. So you've given the brain a really highly specific set of criteria. It's no longer this looming abstract cloud. It has walls.
Precisely. You know exactly what success looks like. And from that point of clarity, you can identify the absolute smallest concrete task to start moving toward those walls.
Right.
Which actually leads into one of the most ruthless but effective rules in the framework. You must ban vague verbs.
Wait, so we're policing our own vocabulary now?
Absolutely we are. Words like research or think or plan or work on, those are completely forbidden on your action lists.
No more working on things.
No. Think about the cognitive science here. Your brain operates a lot like a computer processor. If you give a computer a corrupted executable file it has data, but no operational command.
Yeah, the CPU just spins.
It spins, it overheats, exactly. When you tell yourself to work on the summer promo, your brain just spins. It lacks an operational command.
That is a brilliant way to put it. Because working on something isn't a physical action. I can sit at my desk, stare out the window, spin in my chair, and completely justify it by saying I'm thinking about the project.
Which gets you absolutely nowhere.
Right.
Instead, you swap those out for precise action verbs. Verbs like call, email, book, or draft. What's fascinating here is that defining a physical step completely bypasses the amygdala.
The fear center, right?
Yeah, the part of the brain that triggers fear and overwhelm. It completely removes the guesswork and friction of starting. When the verb is call, you don't have to deliberate.
Your body literally knows what to do.
Exactly. You pick up the phone and you dial. You've outsourced the cognitive load of deciding how to work to the system itself.
You know, look at your oldest to-do list item right now, and I'm talking to you, the listener here. Think about that one task that's been rolling over week after week after week. I would bet serious money it's a noun, not a verb.
Oh, almost certainly.
It probably says taxes instead of call accountant to set up a Tuesday meeting. It's so subtle, but it's completely paralyzing.
It really is.
You know, here's where it gets really interesting, though. The framework points out a massive structural mistake that almost all modern professionals make. It's the cardinal rule of separation.
Yes.
The quickest way to sabotage yourself is mixing your high-level projects and your immediate actions on the exact same list.
Honestly, if you take only one concept away from this entire discussion, it should be that architecture of execution. Your project list and your action list must live in two entirely different spaces.
Let's dig into the why behind that. Why is having overhaul website right next to buy printer ink such a disaster for our workflow?
Because you are forcing your brain to constantly, violently shift gears. A project list is strategic. It's a list of commitments and outcomes. An action list is tactical. It's your ground-level execution.
So they require different mindsets.
Entirely different. If
Yeah.
you combine them, you force your mind to jump between being the CEO, planning the company's future, and the intern going to buy coffee, like every 3 seconds. The cognitive fatigue is just immense.
It's like being in a restaurant kitchen. The project list is the menu out front. The action list is the chopping block in the back. You don't lay the menu on top of the onions you're trying to dice. It just gets in the way.
That's a fantastic analogy. By separating them, you build what the text calls a trusted system. You keep the planning from bleeding into the doing.
Okay, I like that.
When you're in execution mode, you shouldn't be making strategic decisions. You should just be executing.
So mechanically, how are we building this trusted system? I mean, we have tools today that range from simple notebooks to incredibly complex software. Does the tech stack matter?
It really doesn't. You can use a classic analog system like just a simple notebook or a set of 3x5 index cards.
Like one card per project.
Yeah, one card for the project outcome and a separate stack for the next actions. Or you can use GTD-friendly digital platforms like OmniFocus or Todoist or Things.
Right.
The software isn't the magic bullet. The consistency is the magic bullet.
But once we have these physical actions captured in our trusted system, we don't just leave them in one giant, terrifying pile, right? Even a list of perfectly defined physical actions can be overwhelming if there are 100 of them.
And there usually are 100 of them.
Yeah.
That's where contextual organization comes in. This is a specific organizational trend we're seeing for high-efficiency professionals.
Okay.
Instead of organizing by project, you tag your tasks by the context required to complete them. For instance, creating an add phone list, an add computer list, or an add errands list.
Oh, the efficiency of that is just beautiful. Like if I'm stuck at an airport gate,
Yeah.
or I have 10 minutes before a Zoom call, and I only have my phone in my hand, I don't want to sift through 30 tasks that require my dual monitor desktop setup.
You can't even do them anyway.
Exactly. I just open my at phone list, and suddenly I have a menu of things I can execute right now with the exact tools I currently have.
It's all about lowering the barrier to entry. And you can actually take that contextual organization a step further by tagging tasks by energy level.
Like what?
Like having a list specifically designated for low-energy tasks versus high-priority lists.
I genuinely love that approach. Because we are human beings, not machines. At 3:30 p.m. on a Thursday, my cognitive battery is running on fumes.
Oh, completely empty.
I cannot draft the strategic Q3 roadmap, but if I pull up a low-energy list, I can find something highly productive to do like, I don't know, shred old invoices that requires zero brain power but still moves the needle.
You're matching your execution to your biological reality. It's so smart. Now, even with contexts and energy levels, you still have to choose what to do next. To help with that, we can look at a brilliant execution hack mentioned in the text Mark Forster's autofocus method.
I am so glad you brought that up because I've
yeah.
heard the term, but how does the mechanism of autofocus actually work in practice?
It's an incredibly intuitive mechanism. Instead of spending hours assigning complex priorities like A1, B3, C2 to every single task,
Which is exhausting.
it's exhausting.
Mhm.
Instead, you rely on your brain's subconscious readiness. So mechanically, you write all your next actions on a page. You read through the entire page once without doing anything at all.
Okay.
Then you go back to the top and you scan down the list slowly until a task intuitively jumps out at you or just feels right to tackle in that specific moment.
So you're literally passing over tasks until your gut says, yes, I have the capacity for this one right now.
Yes. And you work on it for as long as you feel engaged.
Right.
If you finish it, cross it off. If you don't, you just add the remainder to the bottom of the list and continue scanning.
That sounds incredibly freeing.
It really is. Because you've already done the hard work of ensuring everything on the list is a well-defined, physical next action tied to a real project,
Yeah.
you literally cannot make a wrong choice.
Yeah.
You're just letting your intuition guide your task selection to build momentum.
You've turned work into a menu of purely productive moves. And there's another hack that pairs beautifully with this, which is the 2-minute rule.
Oh, a classic.
Right. If you are clarifying a task and you realize the physical action will take less than 2 minutes to complete, like replying approved to a design email, you don't write it down. You don't put it in the system. You just do it right then.
It clears the brush. It prevents those micro tasks from clogging up your trusted system. And more importantly, it gives you an immediate hit of dopamine. It builds instant momentum.
So what does this all mean? We've talked a lot about the micromechanics of lists and verbs, but if we zoom out to the macro impact, how does this specific framework actually help a business or an individual stay ahead of the competition?
It ultimately comes down to creating and sustaining unstoppable momentum. Think about the most ambitious projects in a professional's career. Writing a comprehensive industry book, developing a new piece of SaaS software from scratch.
Massive undertakings.
Huge. These are endeavors that can take years of sustained effort.
And staring at a project that spans multiple years is basically a one-way ticket to severe burnout.
Exactly. If you wake up every single morning and your overarching task is build software, the sheer psychological weight of that unachieved goal will eventually crush your motivation.
Right, because it feels like you're failing every day until the day it finally launches.
Yes. But by focusing only on the immediate visible step like, the login authentication code, blocked professionals insulate themselves from that burnout. They create a loop of continuous, measurable wins, even if they only have a short block of time to work.
And this framework scales up beautifully to team management, too.
Oh, it fundamentally transforms team collaboration. And, this raises an important question. How much of a company's financial runway is wasted simply because actions are poorly defined during collaboration?
Oh, the GDP lost to vague meetings must be astronomical.
Yeah.
I've been in so many conference rooms where we have a brilliant strategic discussion, everyone enthusiastically agrees to move forward on an initiative, and then we all walk out of the room and absolutely nothing happens.
Nothing gets done.
No one knows who's doing what.
Because the delegation was conceptual, not physical. The shift happens when you stop assigning concepts and start assigning concrete steps. Instead of telling your team to, quote, review project.
Ugh, the worst.
Right. Assigning a concrete step like send stakeholder feedback by Tuesday creates clear accountability. It just eradicates misunderstandings.
Right.
Teams move exponentially faster because everyone knows exactly what to do and when to follow up.
Let's enthusiastically list out a few concrete work examples from the source to really cement what this sounds like in reality. You can hear the difference immediately. Instead of writing down, work on packaging, the next action is, call the design team to confirm packaging specs.
Perfect.
Instead of prep for meeting, it's schedule the stakeholder review on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Or, instead of the incredibly dangerous figure out design schedule, it is email Jordan 3 design dates. The physicality in those sentences is just palpable. You can literally visualize the person typing the email or picking up the phone.
That mental visualization is the linchpin of the whole system. When your mind's eye can picture the action, your body doesn't hesitate to execute it.
What's also incredibly practical is that this isn't exclusively for the boardroom. The source material applies this seamlessly to our personal lives, which, for many of us, is just as overwhelming as our jobs.
Oh, definitely.
They list these specific examples. Book flight tickets for July 15 on Delta using Miles. Enroll in the online Python course by Friday before 5 p.m. Or just pay the dentist deposit online. It takes life admin, that looming cloud of adult responsibilities, and turns it into a series of quick, targeted, tactical strikes.
It does. It gives you your weekends back. But, we have to be realistic here. A system this tight requires deliberate upkeep. You can't just set it and forget it. There is a crucial maintenance loop. And if you ignore it, your trusted system will rot from the inside out.
I know this is where a lot of people fail.
Yeah.
What is the mechanism that actually derails this?
The single biggest point of failure is skipping your reviews. You can download the best software in the world, carefully separate your projects from your actions, and use perfect verbs. But if you don't maintain the data, it becomes obsolete.
Right.
So the framework text highly recommends a scheduled weekly review to clean up stale tasks.
But why does the system fail so predictably after a week? Like, why 7 days?
Well, it goes back to cognitive trust. Your brain uses its working memory, kind of like a computer's RAM, to hold on to open loops. When you write a task down, your brain lets go of it because it trusts the external system.
It knows it's safe on the paper.
Exactly. But over the course of a week, priorities shift, things get completed, new fires start. If you don't review the system, your brain subconsciously realizes the list is no longer an accurate reflection of reality.
Oh, wow.
It stops trusting the list.
Yeah.
And the moment that trust breaks, your brain takes the job back.
And that's when you wake up at 3 a.m. in a cold sweat, remembering you forgot to email a client.
Exactly. The anxiety returns. So during the weekly review, you are basically proving to your brain that the system is still safe. You update your project outcomes, you ruthlessly delete stale tasks that are no longer relevant, and most importantly, you ensure that every single active project on your list has at least one new, clear, physical next action assigned to it.
You clear the RAM.
You clear the RAM, and you pair that weekly review with a daily glance. Just a quick 2-minute scan of your contexts in the morning to keep the items fresh and direct your day's momentum.
That makes total sense.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the final strategic takeaway here is profound. Progress will always matter more than perfect planning. Starting your day with one clear, decisive movement is vastly superior to staring at a perfectly color-coded, heavily engineered project map that you are just too intimidated to actually begin.
That is a massive paradigm shift. It moves us away from the illusion of control and toward the reality of execution, and that leaves you with a really provocative thought to mull over when you look at your calendar tomorrow. Think about this. What if our entire professional anxiety, that crushing, chest-tightening feeling of overwhelm we're all constantly complaining about, doesn't actually stem from actually having too much work to do?
That's a radical idea.
Right. What if the workload isn't the problem? What if the anxiety simply comes from the cognitive burden of not having made a decision about what our very next physical movement should be? When you remove the ambiguity, you realize you aren't actually overwhelmed by the labor, you were just overwhelmed by the unmade decisions.
You strip away the noise, and you are left with nothing but execution, just the next logical step on the path.
It's like having a blurry map in the middle of the woods at midnight. Instead of trying to clear the fog from the entire 10-mile route, you just point a flashlight at the 2 feet of ground directly in front of your boots. You take one step. Then you shine the light on the next 2 feet. And before you know it, you've climbed the mountain. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Smart Keys podcast. We really hope this deep dive into the next action mindset has given you the psychological tools and the mechanical framework to clear the fog and find your immediate next step. Please make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an exploration into the insights that are shaping the future of work and business efficiency. And if you want to dig deeper into Felix Römer's strategies and see how you can apply them to your own workflows, we highly encourage you to read the full article. You can find the link to the original piece right down there in the show notes. Until next time, keep your projects separate from your actions, ban those vague verbs, and always know your next physical move.